All right, so today we're taking a look at Paul Tudor Jones II. He might not be a household name, but he is absolutely a legend in the world of finance. This guy's an American billionaire, hedge fund manager, conservationist, philanthropist. Really a lot going on there. We're going to dig into how he built his fortune, his investment strategies, and again, we're also going to look into some of the controversies too. Can't ignore those. So where do we even begin with a story like this? Let's go all the way back to 1954. Memphis, Tennessee. That's where Paul Tudor Jones II was born. His family owned the Daily News. It's a publication that's been around since 1886. Talk about a legacy. Now, picture young Paul at the University of Virginia. He's there earning an economics degree, graduates in 76. But get this, he wasn't just hitting the books. He was a boxing champion and even the president of his fraternity. Pretty impressive. And to pay for tuition, he wrote for the family paper, used the pen name, Paul Eagle. Who knew this finance guy had a secret writer's side? And here's another interesting tidbit. He got accepted into Harvard Business School, decided not to go. Makes you wonder, right? What if? But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back. 1976. Jones lands a job. New York Cotton Exchange. And this is thanks to his cousin, William Dunavant Jr. Huge name in the cotton world. And Dunavant, he connects Jones with Eli Tullis, legendary commodity broker. Tullis becomes his mentor. But even financial legends, they have their off days. Jones, he actually got fired by Tullis. Fell asleep at his desk after a night out. I guess we all need our sleep, right? But Jones was just getting started. At 24, he becomes a commodities broker for E.F. Hutton & Co. And this is where he meets Glenn Dubin, another big name in the finance world. And that early experience with cotton trading, believe it or not, it was the foundation for everything that came later. Now, fast forward to 1980. Jones is 26 years old. He takes a leap, establishes his own hedge fund. Tudor Investment Corporation. Bold move, right? His mentors, Dunavant and Tullis, they become some of his first clients. Shows the belief they had in him. And man, were they right. Today, Tudor Investment Corporation manages, get this, $12 billion. We're talking global macro trading, equities, emerging markets, venture capital, you name it.
They don't play by the usual rules either. They charge a premium, 4% of assets and 23% of profits, more than the industry standard. But people are willing to pay. They believe in Jones. And speaking of believing in Jones, let's talk about 1987, Black Monday, one of the worst stock market crashes ever. Jones, he predicted it. Not only that, he tripled his money during the crash, all thanks to short selling. And his second in command, Peter Borish, was crucial here. Borish did something really interesting. He compared the 87 market to the one before the 1929 crash. He saw the parallels, the warning signs. It's estimated Jones made $100 million from that prediction. That's when the legend of Paul Tudor Jones really took off. Then in the 90s, another opportunity. Japanese equities bubble burst. Jones shorted market. 87.4% return. Remarkable. But it wasn't always smooth sailing. In 1994, Tudor Investment Corporation asked setback. $800,000 fine from the SEC. They violated the uptick rule. It prohibits short selling when a stock's already declining. They didn't admit any wrongdoing, but it was a hit for sure.
Now, as we move into the 2000s, where we see Jones taking a more conservative approach.
Market landscape was changing. Central banks were keeping interest rates low. Plus, competition in the hedge fund world was getting fierce. So, returns for Tudor clients weren't as high during this decade. Even the greats had to adapt. But Jones wasn't just focused on Tudor. In 2012, he teams up with Glenn Dubin, remember him? And another investor, Timothy Barakat. They buy a merchant energy company, Louis Dreyfus Highbridge Energy. Rebrand it as Castleton Commodities International, LLC. Jones was expanding. Now, what makes this guy tick? His investment philosophy is fascinating. A lot of investors, they focus on value investing. Jones is all about technical analysis and momentum. He's looking for trends, for patterns, the forces driving the market. In a 2000 interview, he actually said, you wish he'd gotten into tech in the 90s. Even the smartest people have regrets, right? More recently, Jones had revealed he's invested in Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. Pretty interesting to see that. A seasoned investor like him, embracing Bitcoin. So, we've seen how he built his empire. But what about the man himself? What does he do with all that wealth? Well, he believes in giving back, big time.
Back in November 2019, his net worth was $5.3 billion. That made him the 343rd richest person in the U.S. But here's the thing. Jones and his wife, Sonia, they joined the Giving Pledge in 2019. They vowed to donate most of their wealth to charity. They even cited Bible verses to explain why. One of his biggest contributions, the Robin Hood Foundation. It's backed by many hedge fund giants. It fights poverty in New York City. Peter Borish, Glenn Dubin. They were founding members too. And it's not just about money. Jones is the driving force behind Just Capital. It's a nonprofit, all about helping people invest ethically. They analyze companies, see how they align with values that Americans care about, things like fair wages, environment, ethical practices. They even have a for-profit ETF. Only includes companies that meet their just criteria. It's a pretty amazing way to make your investments count for more than just profit. And then there's his alma mater, University of Virginia. He donated $44 million to build a new basketball arena, named it the John Paul Jones Arena, after his father. But he goes deeper than that. In 2012, he and Sonia gave $12 million to create the Contemplative Sciences Center.
It's dedicated to mindfulness, meditation, all those practices. Shows a different side to him, a side interested in exploring the inner world. But that's not all for part one. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for the rest of the story on Paul Tudor Jones II. All right, welcome back. We're picking up where we left off with Paul Tudor Jones II. You know, when you're dealing with someone this successful, someone this influential, you're bound to run into some bumps in the road. And trust me, Jones has had his share. Let's start with 2012. He found himself in the middle of a big controversy, at his alma mater, no less, University of Virginia. He was very critical of the university president at the time, Teresa Sullivan. He wasn't happy with her leadership at all. He even wrote an editorial, called for a resignation. But here's the thing, the university pushed back hard. The Board of Visitors, they voted unanimously to keep Sullivan in place. This whole incident showed just how willing Jones is to challenge the system, even if it means ruffling some feathers. Then, in 2013, another controversy. This time it was about some comments he made about women in macro trading. He was at a private investment roundtable. Someone asked him about the lack of diversity. His response, well, let's just say it did not go over well. He suggested that being a mother, it makes it harder for women to focus on macro trading. He even said something like, once a woman nurses a baby, her career in that field is over. People were furious, as you can imagine. They called him sexist, insensitive, all of that. Jones did apologize. He said that he absolutely believes women are just as capable in this field. He tried to explain, said he was only talking about the demanding schedule, the 247 nature of macro trading. He argued that's tough for anyone going through big life changes. Childbirth, divorce, even death, he said. But the damage was done. It definitely hurt his reputation, especially with people pushing for diversity in finance. And then there's another controversy we have to talk about. It's about his connection to Harvey Weinstein. As you probably know, Weinstein was this powerful film producer, accused of all sorts of sexual misconduct. Well, Jones was friends with Weinstein. He was even on the board of the Weinstein Company. And when the accusations started coming out, Jones sent Weinstein an email, gave him advice on how to handle the scandal. He even said he thought the whole thing would blow over. That email came out eventually. And it didn't make Jones look good at all. It seemed like he was more worried about protecting Weinstein than about the women who were accusing him. Remember, Weinstein ended up being convicted of sexual assault in 2020, sentenced to 23 years. Jones did eventually distance himself from Weinstein. He said, that he had been friends with him for too long, defended him for too long. But that association with Weinstein raised a lot of questions about Jones' judgment, his willingness to look the other way. These controversies, they're a part of his story, and it's important to talk about them. But they don't tell the whole story either. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about some of the recognition Jones has received. Back in 1987, PBS made a documentary called Trader. It focused on Jones and his approach to the markets, showed a young, ambitious Jones predicting the '87 crash, using methods similar to Robert Prechter, the market forecaster. It was a really interesting look into Jones's early success, his unique way of thinking. Now, here's a weird thing. Even though that film aired on public television, Jones later asked for it to be taken out of circulation. No one really knows why. Some people think it might reveal some of his trading secrets. Others say he might just be uncomfortable with the attention. Whatever the reason, it just adds to his mystique and his impact, his reputation. It goes way beyond Wall Street. In 1988, he's only 33 years old. He's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. They called him the most watched, most talked about man on Wall Street. Clearly, he was a major player. But even with all the fame, Jones has kept a pretty low profile, especially when it comes to the financial press. From the late 80s to 97, he barely gave any interviews. But he was more visible in other areas. He was on Larry King Live, talking about his Save Our Everglades campaign, the Robin Foundation. He really controlled his public image. Over the years, Jones has become a legend among macro traders. In 2019, Reuters called him one of the giants of the industry. His career has been long, incredibly successful. He's definitely one of the elite. And the recognition keeps coming. In 2008, he was inducted into the Hedge Fund Manager Hall of Fame, part of Institutional Investors Alpha. He joined a group of other incredibly successful managers, names like Alfred Jones, Bruce Kovner, David Swenson, George Soros, Jack Nash, James Simons, Julian Robertson, Kenneth Griffin, Leon Levy, Louis Bacon, Michael Steinhardt, Seth Klarman, and Stephen Cohen. Really cemented his legacy as a pioneer. Then, in 2019, another award, the Golden Plate Award, from the American Academy of Achievement.
It's given to people who've made a real difference in their fields and in society as a whole. Jones received the award from Dr. Francis Collins, director of the National Institutes of Health, at the International Achievement Summit in New York. His impact goes way beyond just finance. Now, let's talk about his personal life a little bit. It's just as interesting as his professional journey. By the mid-'80s, Jones had this reputation for a pretty extravagant lifestyle. Institutional Investor magazine, they said he was known for dating models, big parties, all of that. The Wall Street Journal even had a front-page story about it, called him Qualtron Man. This was in '87, when there was a lot of talk about Wall Street excess. But in 1988, Jones settles down, marries Sonia Klein, Australian-born yoga entrepreneur. Wedding took place in Memphis, his hometown. In the early 90s, they moved to Greenwich, Connecticut. They have 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. Jones has said he hopes his daughters will go into macro trading, kind of challenge those traditional roles in finance. His oldest daughter, Caroline, she went a different route. Music, she's a country pop singer. Joined the Zac Brown Band in 2022. As of 2006, Jones was living in Greenwich, but now his main home is Palm Beach, Florida. And his politics. That's been a topic of discussion, too. He says he's an independent, donated to both Democrats and Republicans. In 2012, he gave $200,000 to Romney's campaign. But back in 2008, he held a fundraiser for Obama at his home in Greenwich. Over 500 people showed up. He's also given to McCain and Giuliani, so he definitely plays both sides. Beyond all the finance and philanthropy, Jones has also been involved in shaping the futures industry. He was a director of the Futures Industry Association, played a key role in creating their educational arm. It was called the Futures Industry Institute at first, later became the Institute for Financial Markets. Based in Washington, D.C., Jones really pushed for them to create an ethics training course. The first one ever for the association. It became the standard for all futures exchanges in the U.S. Shows you his commitment to ethics, professional development. So as we learn more about Paul Tudor Jones II, we see a man of complexities, incredible success, but also controversy. Financial genius, philanthropist, conservationist, but he's also made some questionable choices, said some things that sparked a lot of anger. He reminds us that even the most successful people, they're human. They can do great things, and they can make mistakes. Join us for the final part of our exploration of Paul Tudor Jones II. Make sure to subscribe to hear more stories like this. All right, so we're wrapping up our look at Paul Tudor Jones II. We've gone through a lot, his early days, cotton trading, becoming this hedge fund giant, the philanthropy, the controversies, his personal life. What are the big takeaways here? What can we learn from this guy? I think one thing that stands out is his ability to adapt. He started with cotton, then mastered global macro trading, venture capital, even Bitcoin. Always looking ahead, anticipating, willing to change his approach. That kind of adaptability, that willingness to learn, it's crucial, not just in finance, but anywhere. The world changes. You got to keep up. Another thing I think about is owning mistakes. He's had his share of controversies, right? The University of Virginia thing, his comments about women, the Harvey Weinstein connection. But he hasn't really tried to hide from them. He's acknowledged them, apologized when he needed to, and I think he's tried to learn from them. That kind of self-awareness, that willingness to grow, that's important for all of us. It's about recognizing we're all human. We make mistakes. The key is to learn and become better. Now, let's talk about his philanthropy for a second. He clearly believes in using his wealth to do good. The Robin Hood Foundation, Just Capital, supporting education and conservation, it's all there. It's pretty inspiring, honestly, to see someone with his level of success giving back like that. But here's the thing about his story. It's not just a feel-good story about success and generosity. It's also a cautionary tale. The controversies, they remind us that money and power don't automatically equal goodness. We have to hold people accountable for their actions, even the successful ones. So as we finish up with Paul Tudor Jones II, we're left with a pretty complicated picture. Brilliant investor, generous philanthropist, passionate about the things he believes in, but also someone who's messed up and caused a lot of anger. His story reminds us that success is complicated. Even people who achieve incredible things, they're still human. They're capable of both good and bad. It makes you think about wealth, power, responsibility. What kind of impact do we want to have on the world? It's something to think about. And hey, if you enjoyed this look into Paul Tudor Jones II's life, hit that subscribe button. We've got more stories like this coming up. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep learning.